Thank you for joining us for Stone United Church's Wellness Series. Tonight, Dr. Kirsten Graham will present An Ounce of Prevention is Worth a Pound of Cure.
Kirsten is a local veterinarian and founder of Graham Mobile Veterinary Weight Management Services, the first practice of its kind to focus exclusively on the treatment and prevention of pet obesity. Through house calls and telemedicine, Kirsten takes a practical and non-judgmental approach to weight management in pets, creating a positive experience for everyone involved, setting realistic goals, and celebrating every win, whether big or small, along the journey. And as a client, along with my cat Sam, I can say that that's absolutely the truth. Kirsten's professional life is rounded out by working in general small animal practice as a locum veterinarian, providing telemedicine services through Vetster online platform, and volunteering as a veterinary first responder for the Ontario Turtle Conservation Centre. In her spare time, Kirsten's passion is backcountry canoe tripping, which she often pursues solo on extended trips. She lives with her husband, family, and numerous critters on a dairy farm in Rockwood. So, welcome.
So, thanks a lot for the introduction, Karen. Ever the professional, I have to start with a conflict of interest slide. So, I just have to present this because it's a recorded presentation. You don't need to read it. It's boring stuff. The highlights are that I used to work for a pet food company called Royal Canin. So I do have an inherent bias towards their foods. However, it's only because I have such an in-depth knowledge there. That's where I learned most of what I know about nutrition and how I became passionate about it. I have equal respect for all the other pet food companies out there, and I often talk about other brands as well. So you will see me mention Royal Canin a lot, but it doesn't mean that it's the all and end all. The other thing I need to mention is that a lot of people refer to me as a specialist in weight management, which I can't actually use that word. I have a special interest in it, I have expertise in it, but we can't use the word specialist. So with that, let's move on. You're probably wondering why on earth is a veterinarian speaking at a wellness series for humans? And I would willing to bet that anyone here who has owned a pet or owns a pet currently could argue that pets play a really, really important role in our own well-being. And to give you a few examples, mental health is probably one of the ones that people often think of. For example, if you think about therapy dogs that are taken into long-term care facilities or hospitals, they make a world of difference for those people. And then we could talk about physical health. It's actually being shown in the science that dog owners get more exercise than people who don't own dogs. Not a big surprise. And they've also shown in the science that dog owners have better cognitive function than non-dog owners. Essentially, dog owners are smarter than everyone else. There's another aspect, though, that you may not think about, and that is what I refer to as social or emotional well-being. This is my friend's dog, Frankie. As you can see from the picture, Frankie has a prosthetic limb. She was born with a deformed leg, and she does extremely well with her prosthetic. By pure coincidence, my friends met a teacher who had a young boy in their classroom who also had a prosthetic leg and was struggling a lot socially with his classmates. So my friend offered to bring Frankie to the classroom to meet the boy and to spend some time so that the children could ask questions about Frankie's prosthetic limb. And guess what? The boy who never hardly talked to his classmates, he started talking about his own prosthetic leg. And ever since that experience, that little boy has completely changed. Sorry. So that's what I mean by social well-being. So all of this is related to the human-animal bond. And we also will refer to it as something called One Health, which means that us and the critters and the environment, the ecosystem around us, all interact with each other and influence each other. And so I would argue that pets play a very, very important role in human wellness. What we need to do, if you're a pet owner, is we want to keep our pets as healthy as possible so that not only are we keeping them healthy, but keeping ourselves healthy as well. And that's what this presentation is all about. So there's a whole bunch of obvious things that you might think of when you think about keeping your pet healthy. You might think about annual examinations with your veterinarian, or maybe keeping your pet up to date on its vaccines, or certainly parasite prevention, which is top of mind right now. Everyone's starting with their flea prevention and all that stuff. And then some of us might even consider things like brushing our pet's teeth, or getting dental cleaning done professionally to keep their mouth healthy. So these are all examples of keeping your pet healthy alongside your veterinarian. But I would argue, what can we do at home to keep our pets healthy ourselves? And I would say, my personal opinion is one of the best things you can do for your pet is to keep them at a healthy weight through nutrition. There are a number of research studies that show that pets that are a healthy weight live longer, up to 2 years longer, the study in dogs demonstrated, or also a number of studies that have shown that it substantially improves their quality of life, dogs and cats, if they're at a healthier weight. So since we're talking about nutrition, and I know some of you may have burning questions about general nutrition and what it constitutes a healthy diet. It's a very hot topic. There's lots of different opinions out there. I started to put information together in my presentation about nutrition in general, and it was way too much. I opened a can of worms, but I don't want to disappoint. So what I did do is I put in one slide here about how to figure out if the diet you're feeding or the diet you want to feed is a good quality food. So these are screenshots of documents from an organization called WSAVA, which stands for the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. I really like this organization because they have no vested interest in pet food sales. There's no money involved. They simply want to educate pet owners and help them choose the best food for their pet. So if you're interested in knowing more about general nutrition and what's a good diet, visit their website. It's wasava.org. However, if you just go to the website, you're going to have a heck of a time finding the pet owner stuff. So what I actually recommend you do is go to your favorite search engine and type in WSAVA Nutrition Toolkit, and it will come up. And if you scroll through it, there's lots of different resources in there, including lots of really good things for pet owners. So I'll leave it at that in terms of general nutrition, and we'll come back to obesity. So pet obesity has a significant impact on the human-animal bonds, and I'll give you a few examples of why I'm saying that. So if you think about the overweight or obese cat, like our friend Midnight here, who is so overweight that it can't properly groom himself. So maybe his fur is kind of gummy and sticky. You can see he's got dry skin flakes in his fur. He's maybe not the most pleasant to touch. And quite often these cats have soiled back ends with fecal material. And the owner of that cat may not want that cat to, for example, sit on their lap at night when they're watching TV. So that impacts the human-animal bond in a negative way. To give you an example from dogs that I thought of is if your dog becomes so overweight that they can't go on walks or can't play fetch or what have you, suddenly the owner has lost that opportunity to spend time with their pet that maybe they used to do. And again, that can negatively impact the human-animal bond. And just for the record, Midnight is he's at the Upper Credit Humane Society last I checked. I did a consultation on him about a year ago now. The number on that scale, 14.85, is not pounds. That's kilograms. He's almost 33 pounds, or he was when I met him. And if anyone decides to adopt him, I have told the Upper Credit Humane Society that whoever takes him on, I will do a complimentary house call visit, if it's within reasonable distance, to help them keep him going on the right track with his weight loss. Because they're already doing weight loss with him, but eventually someone else will need to take that over. So if you want to adopt a really nice cat, give them a shout about Midnight.
How old is he?
I don't know. I can't remember. He's a very nice cat, though. He can actually still walk, believe it or not, but he's huge. Absolutely huge. So coming back to the obesity data, this slide is a bit older, and we're waiting for new data, and this is also data from the US, but the Canada situation is very similar, and I can vouch for that in private practice. So upwards of 60% of our pets are either overweight or obese. And that very much mirrors the human statistics as well. Obesity is a form of malnutrition, and it's the #1 nutritional disease in developed countries in humans and pets. Essentially, we have an epidemic, okay? And you also probably just heard me say the word disease. Obesity is a disease. So I try to refer to it as that pet has obesity instead of that pet is obese. But I often get caught up. It's difficult to change the way you speak. So all that to say that it's also a condition that is preventable in many cases, not always, but often. And it's certainly a whole lot easier to prevent than it is to cure. I always use the example of a flea infestation. If you have a pet and you put them on a flea preventative, that is going to make your life way, way easier than if you get a flea infestation and try to get rid of those fleas in your home and in your pet. So obesity is the same. It is far easier to manage it and address it early than it is to leave it and try to address it later. So how might we do that? Well, I am a very simple person and I have a terrible memory. So I always think of things in threes whenever I can and try to make it memorable. So if you take nothing else from this presentation, try to remember the big three. And I call a lot of things the big three, not just this. So if you ever attend any of my other presentations, you're going to go, that's not the big three. This is a different one. So the big three in my mind in terms of nutrition and keeping your pet at a healthy weight are portion control, minimizing the extras like treats, and monitoring the pet's weight. And we're going to talk about each of those items individually and how you can do that at home. So we'll start with portion control. And so the very first step is don't do this. This is what we call free feeding. And I know a lot of people probably do it. I used to do it. Don't feel guilty. There's no judgment here. Free feeding means you put out a bowl of food for usually it's the cat, but sometimes the dog, and the pet grazes from it throughout the day, or multiple pets eat from that bowl, and you just top it up whenever it's getting low. So you have no idea which animal in the house is eating it. You don't know how much they're eating. And invariably, well, quite often I should say, these pets end up becoming overweight or develop obesity. So my colleague likes to say, ban the free feeding. And while you're at it, I would also recommend you ban these things. These are what I call kibble waterfalls, and I stole that term from a friend. There's just another way to free feed your pet where you don't even have to fill it up for a week. Also, the food can go bad in those, but anyway, I digress. So the first thing you want to do is not do that. Okay, fine, you agree with me. So then, how do you know? Yes, of course. Yeah. So, okay, fine. So how do you know how much to feed the pet then? Well, I always recommend starting with the packaging, and you'll need your reading glasses for this. But oftentimes a pet food company will have the feeding amounts on the packaging. And if you're really lucky, they'll include enough detail that, especially for cats, if you want to feed dry and wet food combined, they'll give you some example feeding amounts. That said, these things are really, really hard to read. They're confusing, and they're very vague because there's only so much room on the packaging. So the next step, if you want more detail, is to visit the company's website. Fine, okay, we're gonna measure the food. We're gonna feed an exact amount to our pet, right?
Right.
Okay, and how many people in the room use these devices? So anything on the screen? Lots likely, right? Okay, you don't have to admit to it. Or maybe you use something even better like your hands, or a red Solo cup, or your coffee mug, or whatever. So measuring devices are a step in the right direction over free feeding, so I'll give you that. But the same colleague coined the term ban the cup. So I'm going to convince you that the best way to measure your pet's food is to weigh it with a digital kitchen scale. The sign of a good pet food company, just going back to general nutrition, if you want to know if a company's really good, chances are they have gram feeding amounts, or ounces if you're in the US, on their packaging or on their website. If they don't, I probably would steer clear. That's a sign that they really do put a lot of work into providing good nutrition and telling you how much to feed. So I'm going to bore you for a minute with some science because I think these two research studies are really, really cool, and I'll keep it really succinct. So 2 research studies have been done on what happens when you measure dry pet food with a measuring cup, an actual measuring cup. So the first study found that there was a huge variation in accuracy, including one subject who overestimated the feeding amount with a measuring cup by 80%. And these subjects, just for the record, in this study, these were all vet students. So they knew what the researchers were up to, and they tried really, really hard to measure 1 cup of food accurately. And someone was still over by 80%. The second study did the same idea, but they actually looked at 3 different amounts of food. So they did a 1/4 cup, a 1/2 cup, and a full cup. And they found the same idea, huge variation in accuracy, up to 50% of an overestimation on average. And on top of that, not surprisingly, they found that the smaller the volume of food you were measuring, the more inaccurate you might be. So to drill that all down, basically what you need to remember is measuring cups result in a 50 to 80% overestimation in feeding often, and small volumes are the least accurate. So what that tells me is if you have a small dog or you have a cat, chances are you are overfeeding them, and even just a few extra kibbles makes a really, really big difference. If you still don't believe me, for those who are here in person, I brought activities for after, and there's dog food and cat food there. There's suggested feeding amounts to try and measure, and then if you open up the card that I've put, it'll actually tell you what it should have weighed in grams. So you can practice using a gram scale, and you can see how accurate you are. And I left a whole bunch of different kinds of measuring cups, so you pick your favorite, pick your poison. So whenever I recommend using a gram scale to weigh your pet's food, I often get excuses, or I see them in the person's head. They don't actually vocalize them. Things like, I don't own a scale, or I don't have time, or I don't know how. And these days, a lot of people do actually own gram scales, but I'm going to show you just how easy it is if I can make my video play. So let's see here. Yes, there we go. So this is how you weigh it. So you put the bowl on, you press 0, make sure it's on grams if you have a multi-scale, and I'm going to measure 15 grams, which is the average size of a single meal for a cat. Okay? That took me 15 seconds, okay? You can also, if you have multiple pets or something, you can actually measure out the full meal for the day into a container. And this is an example of me doing it for 3 meals. And I'll show you in a sec why that's. So that took me 1.2 minutes. I put it on fast forward, but it actually took me 1.2 minutes. So you might want to do that if you have multiple pets. You measure out their entire amount for the day. Or if you want to make your life really easy, you measure it out for the whole week. And that makes it a lot easier. Let's say you have family members who don't want to weigh the food, which everyone, to be fair, everyone in our house knows how to do this, and they do it. But if you had, say only one person was responsible for weighing the food, it makes your life easier. If you only want to pull that scale out once a day, whatever. Like, I basically try to provide every example possible to get people to do this. And lots of people will believe me and do it. Right, Karen?
Yes.
Yes. And is it easy, Karen? Is it easy?
Yes, it's easy. Yes.
Easy as pie. If you have kids that are the right age, you can always make them do it. It's a great activity, a great daily responsibility for pet ownership, and it might even improve their math skills. I do have one client who's got her teenage daughter measuring the dog's food, and it's great. So many people have a scale already. But if you don't have one, you can find them very, very easily at hardware stores, at some grocery stores. They're relatively inexpensive. They seem to always be on sale. So there's no excuse. So that's great. You're going to weigh the food. Awesome, awesome. But this is a true story. This is a quote from one of my veterinary colleagues. I managed to get the owners to weigh the food, but they are not willing to feed the cat separately. So essentially, it's a game of hungry, hungry hippos. And hopefully I'm not dating myself too much. But basically, what we're trying to say here is that it's great if you measure the food, but if you have more than one cat or more than one pet and they're eating out of each other's dishes, it's only going to get you so far. So still, as Karen said when she introduced me, I try to keep things positive. So it's great that you're measuring the food. Let's take it one step further. So what do you do if you have multiple pets, and especially multiple cats? How many people in the room have more than one cat? Okay, so that is a challenge, right? I'm going to give you so many different examples of how to get around this that you're going to go home and do this right away. So we have 3 cats. So the easiest and best thing to do is to teach your pets to eat their meals out of their bowl, give them 20 minutes, and feed them separately in different parts of the house. ideally different rooms with a door closed between them. Believe it or not, you can teach an old cat or an old dog new tricks. You can do this. Additionally, if you have a dog-cat household and you want to keep the dog out of the cat's food, it's very simple. You raise the bowl so that the dog can't access the cat's food. Easy peasy. So I have a client with 5 cats, and in the last year, we have diagnosed every single one of her cats with a medical condition that has required a different diet. So she is now she went from feeding 5 cats free feeding the same food to 5 cats needing all separate meals. 2 of them need to lose weight. She taught all of her cats to eat from separate dishes in separate parts of the house in 2 weeks. And her cats, each of them knows their spot. And we've started to find that at our house, that our cats know where they get fed and they go to that spot when they're hungry and they see us preparing their food. Another trick, if you have what I call a problem cat, so this is our cat Penelope. So if you have one cat that eats all their food really, really fast and then they run over and eat the other cat's food after, you can keep them busy and slow them down with what I call food puzzles or interactive toys. There's all sorts of them on the market. These are also great for their mental health and their kitty cat health because it's interactive for them. It makes the meal an activity and an event. It's not just eating the kibble out of the bowl. So Mabel here is using what's called a digger to fish the kibbles out of the bowl. There's all sorts of other kinds of food puzzles like balls and toys and stuff where you can put the food in. I'm going to show more throughout the presentation because I am such a big fan. If you don't know what kind of food puzzle your cat might like, you can take a look. There's a website that's literally called Food Puzzles for Cats, and they have about 200 different examples on there, including homemade ones. So if you're not sure and you have a muffin tin, that's Penelope, you can try feeding them out of a muffin tin and see if they like that. Penelope didn't quite get it, but whatever, they tried. So yeah, so there's another example. The next idea is to create feeding zones. This is the most inexpensive way to do it. This is best for a dog-cat household where you want to keep the dog out of the cat's food. It will work for a cat-kitten household only so long. Once the kitten reaches a certain size, it won't work anymore. You'll see why. So you're basically going to take a box, ideally a clear plastic bin, but if you want to start by trying a box, you can do so. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a hole in that box that is just big enough to accommodate the animal you want to eat out of it. So the smallest animal in the household. And that way they can go in, they can get their food, and the other animal can't get in to see them. So that's a great solution if you just want to try something temporarily and see if this whole idea is going to work before you spend some money. If you want to get really fancy and more permanent, you can invest or get cat doors. So they range from the homemade solutions like the one that Murray Oliver made for us, I don't know how many years ago now. It's still in use. Very dirty, but it's in use. Or you can go really, really fancy to the ones that are microchip sensitive and only open for the cats that are programmed to it. So say you had 3 cats and you wanted to feed them in 3 different spots, you could buy 3 microchip sensitive cat doors and install them in different parts of the house. And then each cat has their own spot. Super easy. Very expensive way to do it, but hey, it's an idea. Another inexpensive solution is to create a feeding zone by using a hook and eye latch or cabin latch or gate latch to prop open a door only to a certain width. So this is at our house as well. Don't mind the paint job. So these things are cool because they're cheap and they come in a whole bunch of different widths to accommodate different girths. If you have a rotund cat and you want to keep the dog out of the cat's food, you can buy the larger gate latch for the cat. Of course, this makes a hole in your door, and while I was making this presentation, I actually found this, which is basically the same idea in a commercial pretty form, called the Door Buddy. I don't even know where you would buy such a thing, but whatever. So it's nice. It looks like it's good in that you don't really actually make holes in anything. It's got an adhesive. My concerns with it are, I think it's made out of a flexible fabric, like bands, and so the risk of the door closing and blocking the cat from getting its food is there. I think. I've never used the product. And then I also question the strength of the adhesive. That would not keep our Labrador Retriever out of our cat's food. It wouldn't work at our house. But anyway, they exist. The Cadillac of solutions are these things, okay? So there may be other similar devices on the market, but not to my knowledge. These are called the SureFeed microchip pet feeders, And the newer version on the right is called the Pet Feeder Connect, and it's just got some more technology. What these do is they are activated to open using your cat's implanted microchip that they already have for their identification. If they don't have a microchip, the SureFeed machines come with a little tag that can be worn on a collar and will do the exact same thing. The SureFeed Connect, the fancier one, actually even has an embedded gram scale and will weigh the food. And it connects to your cell phone so you can monitor if your cat's eating their meal. I haven't used the fancy one, but we have a couple of the other ones and they work really, really well. So if you want to see what these look like, let's see if I can, oh there we go, it's playing. So these are our two cats. So Mabel is going to try first, and that is not her SureFeed. She's blue, not pink. And she's really hungry. She's going to try really, really hard. She really wants that. Look at that. Oh my goodness, I really want that kibble. And Penelope, who belongs to the SureFeed, she walks right up to it, and it, nice. It opens. She enjoys a few kibbles, and then when she walks away, the SureFeed closes right away. So these work pretty well. We have a third cat that has figured out that if he stands beside it, he can reach in and get it. So we've had to make some modifications, but they seem to do the trick. So now, right now, with the supply chain issues the last few years, these are hard to come by, and the price has gone through the roof. But if you really, really want one, they're pretty cool. You can get them on Amazon.ca. Okay, so that's enough about feeding, portion control, and how to feed pets separately. The next two are much shorter, so don't worry, I won't go over time. So for minimizing the extras, so these are the treats and stuff. And many pet owners find that giving treats is a source of providing love or affection for their pet, right? So you could argue that minimizing extras might have a negative impact on a human-animal bond. And so I have a solution for that, and it's let them have treats. Let them have treats, no problem, but we need to be very precise about what treats and how much. So the rule that we use is 10% of the cat's or dog's daily intake can be in the form of treats, and that's 10% of their calories, okay? So the idea is that many treats in human foods are not considered nutritionally complete and balanced to support a pet fully with nutrition. That's why it can only be 10%. If you go more than that, you might create a nutritional deficiency with the animal, not to mention obesity. So to give that some context, here are 3 examples. So first, we'll start with the cat. It's a 10-pound cat. It should eat roughly 200 calories per day. 10% of that is 20 calories as treats, okay? If we have a small dog, let's say he's 20 pounds, oopsies, he would need about 500 calories a day. This is very rough, and therefore we get 50 calories as treats. Try to remember these numbers because it's going to matter in a second. And then our large breed dog, 75 pounds, let's say, should eat about 1,200 calories a day. Therefore, that dog can have 120 calories as treats. So, what treats can we actually feed? Well, my rule is the treats need to meet 3 criteria. The first one is they need to be low in calories. Milk bones, if you buy the right size for the size of your dog, are not low in calories. And I'm just using them as an example. There's a lot of treats that are not low in calories. To give that context, this is for a large breed dog. He should be eating 120 calories of treats a day maximum. 1 milk bone is 125. So, and chances are you're going to give more than 1, right? Or you're going to give milk bone and something else. The second rule I have is they need to have a known amount of calories in them. So it's really nice when your neighbor makes, nice little doggy homemade cookies and it's a special treat. That's great. But if you're using those on a daily basis, who knows how many calories there are in them? We don't know. So it's not that they're bad for the animal, but they're just a giant question mark. So be very cautious with those. And then my last rule is they need to have a consistent size so that every treat is the same size. Otherwise, the calories are, again, a giant question mark. So a lot of pets love liver treats. We actually use them in the vet clinic when we're vaccinating and stuff, and they're great because you can break them up into little pieces and stuff. But guess what? If you look at the package, they don't look like the picture there. They're all different sizes. And they have an average of 8 calories per average sized piece, but they don't define what that is. So low calories, known caloric content, and consistent size are my 3 rules. So here are some examples. Oh yeah, so don't feed those. That's what I'm trying to say. So here are some examples of recommendations that I would suggest you look for. So the first is try to find low-calorie treats at your vet clinic or at the pet store. If you look at the packaging, it should list the calories. If it does not, don't buy them. Again, that's a sign of a good pet nutrition company, is the calories are there, easy for you to get. If you have to call the company to ask for them, don't buy them. My second and my absolute favorite suggestion is cat treats for dogs. Okay, I have put so many dogs on cat treats, it's unbelievable. They are extremely low in calories for dogs. For cats, you have to be careful, but they almost always have less than 2 calories per treat, no matter what flavor you buy, no matter what brand you buy. They're consistent size, yeah, they're just great. So that means your dog can have, you know, a lot of cat treats if you feel the need to treat them a lot. Another great solution, if you like to feed human foods, is to reach for cucumbers. They're almost all water. And so an example that I like to share is Grandpa comes over for supper on Sunday evening and he likes to sneak the dog pieces of steak. So what you do when you plate up Grandpa's food is you put a little corner with a couple cucumber slices, and when he wants to feed the dog the steak, he feeds them the cucumber. Okay. There's other examples that are good. Some vegetables are not safe for dogs, but yeah, cucumbers are a really great choice, and you can instruct the owner on how thick to make the slices, or if they want to cube them or whatever. But the top thing you can do is actually just use their kibble as treats. Believe it or not, pets perceive a treat as something special coming from you. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be kibble, it could be attention, it could be a toy. It's still special and therefore a treat in their eyes. In most cases, some pets won't fall for it, but so the way you do this in a foolproof method comes back to weighing the food. So these are our cat's 3 containers for the whole day. Pink is Penelope, obviously, because everything's color-coded. And basically what I recommend is you set up the entire daily amount of food into a container for that pet, and everyone in the household knows that's it. That's all they get. If you want to give a meal, it comes out of that container. If you want to give a treat, air quotes, comes out of that container. These are cat food. If you wanted to put a few temptations in there because your vet said you could feed 10 temptations a day, put them in there too, and you'll be able to tell the difference. So that's the best thing to do. Yeah, kibble as treats is by far the best solution, as long as it comes out of their daily allotment. If you want to make it even more interesting for them, you can make giving a treat more than just a freebie, as I like to call it. So one suggestion I make a lot is you take a portion of the daily kibble, this is for dogs, soak it in water, stuff it into a Kong or another hollow toy like the one he's chewing on, and even freeze it if you want to. Do that instead of putting, what do people normally put in Kongs? Peanut butter. We're going to talk about peanut butter later. It's a problem. So this is great. My brother has a puppy and he has 2 Kongs that go in rotation in a freezer. So there's always a Kong in the freezer for the dog. If you have cats, I'm coming back to food puzzles again. This is our cat Harvest playing with his little mousies. I can't remember the name of this toy off the top of my head, but these are great. It's a set of 3 little mice. They are a plastic hollow thing with a little slider so you can make the opening whatever size you want, and then they're covered with fabric that can be washed. And basically the idea is you put their treats or their daily allotment of their meal into the little mousies, and you hide them around the room or around the house, and then Harvest has to go hunting for his mousies, and once he catches them he needs to play with them to get his reward. So this goes way beyond just managing weight. Cats have an inherent prey drive, and especially indoor cats have very few ways to satisfy that, and it's incredibly important for their health. So using food puzzles like these and others for cats in particular is extremely beneficial in many, many ways. Another example, I mentioned this a bit earlier, this is Spencer, my first patient. Very sweet little fellow, and I was so pleased. I hadn't made this suggestion to his owner, but I remember coming to see her for a weight check, and she said, "You'll never believe what I discovered. Instead of giving Spencer a treat, I rub his belly and he is equally happy." Perfect. So yeah, replace treats with affection, with play, with a favorite toy, whatever you want. Mix it up a little bit, right? It doesn't need to be food. So I want to share a little sidebar on food items that get overlooked because I think it's really important, and I just want to mention these. So the first one is dental chews. If you follow the instructions on the packaging, to get the dental benefit for your dog from a dental chew, you need to give 1 per day. And you also need to pick the right size of chew for the size of dog. So how many calories of treats can a 75-pound dog have? Remember? 120. This is one example. All dental chews are the same, very, very similar. That's 139 calories per chew. Chances are you're giving the chew and you're giving a milk bone and you're giving steak, right? So all of a sudden you've way exceeded their treat allotment. So they're great for dental health. There's better solutions for dental health, which I won't go into, but be really, really careful about these because you don't think of them. The second thing that people don't think about are these delicious things. These are bully sticks. I'm not sure if I can say this in a church, but did you know that bully sticks are dehydrated bull penises? That's kind of gross. And if you're adverse to feeding food with byproducts in it, that's a byproduct. So anyway, I digress. Bully sticks are extremely caloric. Some dogs eat them all in one sitting, some don't. They have very questionable number of calories, but the average, based on a whole bunch of research, is 88 calories per 6-inch stick. And then they have all different sizes. So they're really a big giant question mark, and I generally recommend avoiding them for many reasons, including that. And the last thing that people don't think about is supplements, and specifically, John, oops, I pressed the wrong button. Specifically omega fatty acids, so fish oil supplements. Some pets need those for their health, and that's great, but they need to make up a portion of the treat allotment because they're not complete and balanced, they're just fat. And that's not a bad thing if the pet needs it, but guess what? Fat's pretty caloric, so we need to factor that in and adjust how many other treats that pet gets. I have some patients who are on fatty acid supplements that can't have any other treats because it's their entire daily intake. So those are the 3 things to just watch out for. And then we'll just talk about high calorie foods for a minute because human foods are a big problem. Now, for those who are here, I have a few copies of this handout, this little card. Over there, it's on the back side of another one, so if you want one, you're welcome to take it. So these are a few examples of human foods and how many calories they actually contain. And you may not feed that the amount they suggest there, not suggest, but the amount they use as an example to your dog, but just to give you a sense. And remember I said I was going to talk about peanut butter, so here we go. Peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter has about 90 to 92 calories in it, depending on the brand. Chances are you're going to use at least a tablespoon to put in that Kong, or you might use some to administer medication. And that's a lot of calories for what the animal actually gets. So be super careful with peanut butter. I also really like this one. So this is from Purina. And it gives, I don't have a copy of it unfortunately, but if you want it, I have digital, I can send you. It just gives another perspective of remembering that our pets need way fewer calories than we do, and we have to scale it down. So this infographic contrasts the caloric equivalent between your pet and yourselves with the currency of muffins. So I'm going to zoom it in a little bit for you so you can read that better. Now, the only thing I don't like about this one is the amounts that they suggest are ridiculous. Like, who gives their cat a cup of milk? I hope nobody does. That would cause some really GI upset. But anyway, but again, we'll just talk about peanut butter because it's my favorite topic. So peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is maybe a little overkill for a dog. So let's say it's 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. That's like us eating about 3 muffins. That's a lot of muffins if you do that every day. And then if you want to look at an example for cats, I chose tuna. I don't think you'd be giving an entire tin of tuna to a cat, but let's say you did, just for simple math, 1/3 of a tin. That is the equivalent of us also eating 3 muffins. If you do that day in and day out, that's going to add up super, super quick. Also, these foods are not complete and balanced, so you're messing with their nutrition as well. I hope that makes sense. So just be super careful. So the last of the big 3 is monitoring their weight. And the best thing to do is to take them to the vet clinic for this, because their scales, that's hardest again, their scales are meant for pets. But I recognize that it is sometimes very difficult to take some pets to the vet clinic. If they're a healthy weight, you probably just want to check their weight a couple times a year unless you're concerned. So that's probably reasonable.
But if they're on a weight loss program or you're worried, you might be checking that weight a lot more often, maybe up to every 2 weeks in some cases. So people always ask me, well, can I use a bathroom scale? You can. I'm not a huge fan. If you absolutely must use a bathroom scale, don't use one like this. You want a digital one with at least 1 decimal place of accuracy. The reason I'm not a big fan of them is with really big dogs, I always worry about somebody getting hurt. So the owner hurting themselves lifting the dog biting the owner because it doesn't like that. That could be a small dog too, for to think of it. Or the dog being dropped and injured. So be extremely cautious using bathroom scales to weigh bigger dogs for sure. Also, they are terribly inaccurate when it comes to smaller animals because they're not meant to detect the detailed level of change that we need to know about. So if you have a smaller pet, like a small dog or a cat, this is my solution. And again, poor Karen, I'm picking on you. Karen can vouch for this. Get yourself a digital luggage scale, not an analog one, and use either the pet's carrier, or you can use some other safe containment system that they don't mind going into, like your cat jumps into your suitcase every time you pull it out. Okay, use your suitcase. And you're going to weigh them with the item inside the containment system. Then you're going to do the math. Karen actually told me a cool story, which I didn't realize is the added benefit to doing this with your cat is your cat gets really, really used to that cat carrier, and it makes it a whole lot easier when you do have to put them in it to go to the vet or what have you. So a great solution, especially for cats, for checking their weight regularly. That said, what if I told you that I don't actually care at all about that number on the scale? I don't. It's a useful piece of information to trend weights and stuff, but if you tell me that your cat has gone from 5 to 6 kilograms, I'm concerned. If you tell me, oh, my cat weighs 6 kilograms, I'm going to say, cool. I don't know what that means until I put my hands on your cat. There's midnight again, because I wasn't creative. So what matters to me more is something called body condition. And this is a tool that we use in vet clinics to develop what we call a body condition score for that pet. What that means is, how does the pet carry the weight on their body? There are 2 different systems. The preferred system is a 9-point scale, and basically a 1 out of 9 is emaciated, a 9 or 9 plus out of 9 is obese or morbidly obese. So you want your cat or your dog to be about a 5 out of 9. 4 out of 9 is okay too. I made this mistake only once in my career. I saw a pet, they were in perfect weight. I told the owner, this is awesome, your pet's body condition is perfect. And I did not explain myself. And they went home and they looked at their invoice, which said the dog weighs blah, 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 and the body condition is 5 out of 9. And they called in an absolute fury that I had said their dog was perfect, and they only got a 5 out of 9. So you don't want to be 100% on the scale, right? You don't want a perfect score. You want a half score. So to simplify that a little bit, and again, I have this in hard copy if you want to take one home. I have a few of them. Essentially, we're looking for 3 things that make a healthy pet, a healthy body condition. So if your pet is standing on all 4 feet, you look at them from the top and you look at their waistline, and you want to see a little bit of an hourglass waist. Secondly, you're going to run your hands along their rib cage, and you want to be able to feel those ribs without having to dig for them. They may stick out a little bit. For a short-haired animal, you may actually be able to see them a little bit. That's okay, as long as it's not too extreme. And then the third piece is you want to look at them from the side to see if they have what we call an abdominal tuck. So does their belly tuck up a little bit right before the back legs? The exception to that, the picture, I mean, that's a perfect cat, but a lot of cats don't look like that from the side, and they are a healthy weight. Cats have a primordial fat pad, which is natural and normal. If they've previously been overweight, chances are that fat pad will remain big for the rest of their lives, and it does not mean they're overweight. So take the cat picture with a bit of a grain of salt. This is the other trick. So take your hand and make a fist. People on Zoom can do this too. Your pet's ribs should feel like the back of your hand, okay? They should not feel like your knuckles. That means your pet is likely underweight. And if you open your hand, they definitely shouldn't feel like the palm of your hand, and even worse, like the heel of your hand. Those are signs that your pet may be overweight or obese. So that is a very simple way to, you're at the dog park and someone says, your dog's too skinny. You can teach them that trick. Say, no, my dog is a back of the hand dog. Your dog is a palm of the hand. Right, so it's a really, really simple way to remember. Ultimately, the best thing you should do is ask your vet team their opinion on your dog's weight and their dog's body condition. And believe you me, if you walk into your annual exam with your pet and you say, by the way, what do you think about their weight? They will hug you. Because a lot of vets are very awkward about bringing up the topic of weight, especially if the pet is overweight or obese. So if you come in wanting to know, they will talk your ear off. They will be thrilled that you asked. So please go and ask. Even if you think your pet is healthy, they will love you. You'll make their day. Right, Tabitha? Right. Okay. So we worked through the big three, and you're probably all, I know you're all thinking this, why didn't I mention exercise? Why is it not part of the big three? So exercise is still great. This is our 14-year-old Labrador Retriever JD this winter. And exercise is important. It maintains muscle mass, it maintains cardiovascular health, and it plays a really important role in a human-animal bond because it usually means you're involved too. But the reality is that if your pet needs to lose weight, exercise is not going to get you very far, and diet plays a way more impactful role. So not to say that you shouldn't use exercise as part of a weight management plan for your pet, but don't rely on it. It probably won't do the trick. I'll give you an example. This is my favorite example. That's my favorite donut from Tim Hortons, sour cream glazed, hint, hint. But I was very upset. So I wanted to make this analogy for these presentations, so I looked up the amount of calories in it. It's besides Boston cream, so sorry if you like those, it is the highest calorie donut they sell. So then I wear a Fitbit activity tracker, or not Fitbit, Apple Watch, and I thought, I wonder how long it would take me to burn off 340 calories at a brisk walk. It is an hour and 45 minutes. Wow. So if your pet is overweight and you need to create what we call a caloric deficit of, let's say, 340 calories, you're going to need to walk your dog at a brisk walk every single day for an hour and 45 minutes if you don't want to change what you're feeding them. So realistically, it makes far more sense to make an adjustment to the diet. Sometimes exercise will work if they're not very heavy, but generally it's the diet that needs to change. Also, exercise is risky if your pet is overweight or obese because it can easily cause injury. So if your pet's heavy, don't go play fetch with them. They will probably hurt themselves. You're better off to do controlled leash walks, swimming if they enjoy that. There's even physiotherapists for dogs. You can go do like underwater treadmills and all sorts of stuff. So speaking of Fitbits and Apple Watches, these actually exist for dogs, which is kind of cool. And I just want to share that with you because although I think in a lot of people, certainly you wear one, but it doesn't necessarily mean you exercise. But there are some people who find these super cool. It's fun technology. And if that's what it takes to get an owner to walk their dog more or what have you, then by all means, it's worth looking into. They're pretty fun. These are a few examples. There's a number of different brands out there, but just so you know, they do exist. It's kind of neat. What about exercising cats? Cats are really hard to exercise. They sleep 26 hours a day. So once again, I'm going to suggest food puzzles. You want the mobile kind that makes them move around the house. So this is my friend's cat Quinty playing with her treat ball, and she has to roll it around the house to actually get the treats out. With cats, you can also play hide and seek, where, especially if it's the only cat in the home, what you do is you say you're going to feed them their meal. Instead of just putting it in a bowl, you're going to take little bits of the meal and hide it all around the room, and they've got to go find each bit to enjoy it. Or if you like to sit on the couch at night and watch Netflix, and you want to feed your cat, you take your container of weighed kibble and you toss one kibble at a time around the room, and the cat has to go and get each kibble if they want to have it. So there are ways to exercise cats, believe it or not. So the whole time I've mostly been talking about weight management from the perspective of your pet is already a healthy weight and you want to keep them healthy, or you want to avoid obesity. But what about if your pet is already struggling with obesity? This is Sam. This is Karen's kitty. As she mentioned, she adopted him fairly recently. He's a senior boy. He came to her, I believe he was free-fed. We don't really know. But he also came with like a grocery bag of treats. Every treat you can imagine that you can buy for cats, Sam came with. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but it was a lot of treats. So thankfully, Karen immediately recognized that Sam had a problem. He wasn't morbidly obese, but he was a big boy, and she wanted to do something about it, so she ended up contacting me for help. And when we have a pet that has obesity or is fairly overweight, generally they require a prescription weight loss diet. And the reason it's a prescription food is because it really needs close supervision and guidance from a veterinary team if you want to have success, and it often requires adjustments as the program goes along. They often will plateau, just like people. And we also want to make sure the weight loss is safe, so not too fast and effective. We want to see success. The worst is you send home a bag of weight loss food and that's it, you never see the pet again, and then a year later you see them and you're like, I didn't lose weight, so I switched him back. I'm like, well, did you feed the right amount? No. Did you check his weight? No. Okay, well, of course he didn't lose weight. There's nothing wrong with the diet. Anyway, so I want to try to explain what I mean, why it's important that it be a true weight loss diet. So this is my diagram. I'll walk you through it. So a maintenance diet, what I mean by that is any regular diet you can buy that is not a weight loss prescription food, nutritionally looks like this. So it's very balanced with specific nutrients in very specific ratios at certain amounts so that it creates a complete and balanced diet. So you can see we've got our proteins, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Remember I said the treat allowance is 10%. So you can restrict a maintenance diet to allow that pet to have treats or not by about 10%, and you're still going to get all the nutrients they need. You're not going to cut back on those crucial nutrients that they need for health. But if a pet is overweight or has obesity, they need caloric restriction way more than 10%. They usually need 40% or more just to begin with. If you cut this diet back by 40%, that's what the nutrition is going to look like. You're starting to lose really important things like vitamins and minerals, protein, those sorts of things, and over time that pet may develop a nutritional deficiency. Additionally, maintenance diets tend to have a higher calorie density than a prescription weight loss diet. So you can imagine if you want to feed 40% of what you're currently feeding your dog, they're not going to get a really little bit of food and they're going to be hungry, and you're going to go, that's not enough food, and then you're going to give them more treats. So that's why it's really not recommended to restrict a maintenance diet by that degree. So let's turn our diet into a weight loss diet. So this is the exact same profile as what I just showed you. Weight loss diets have basically 4 features. So the first one is that we change some of the fat into protein. So they're higher protein and lower fat. Protein helps support muscle mass and so they don't lose muscle mass and they stay nice and muscular as best we can while they're losing weight. But it also removes the fat, which is high in calories. Now, some fat is important, but we can definitely cut it back. So that's going to reduce the calories. The second thing is we add way more vitamins and minerals, so that when we start to cut it back, we still have enough in there. And then the next thing we do is we add fiber. So if anyone has ever tried to use Metamucil to help with feeling of fullness in your protein shake or whatever, it's the exact same fiber. It's called psyllium. So weight loss diets have psyllium in them and other fibers to help that pet feel more satisfied or satiated and more full. So when you do cut back the calories, or the quantity I should say, the calories, they're still feeling generally not too hungry. And then lastly, because these diets are so less caloric, but they're lower caloric density, when you cut them back, the volume of food you're still feeding is similar to what you were feeding with your maintenance diet. So a half a cup of a maintenance diet versus a half a cup of a weight loss diet is going to have way fewer calories in it, but the same volume of food. So if you cut that back by 40%, you can see we still get lots of protein, we've got our fats, we've got tons of vitamins and minerals. We're not going to create a nutritional deficiency. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, good, because I worked really hard on that. It's my favorite slide that I've ever made. Okay, so when we put a pet on a weight loss program, we combine the prescription weight loss food with the big 3. You can't just send home the weight loss food, it won't work. You've got to do those things too. And then of course, working closely with your veterinarian. So here's Sam now. And Sam, Sam recently achieved his perfect weight. Sam lost 3 pounds. Congratulations, Karen. And he's now ideal. So Sam Sam was 15 pounds and now he's 12, I believe. That's like a 150-pound person losing 30 pounds. So give that. So 3 pounds doesn't sound like much, but if you put it in human terms, it does. Also, I brought something special to show you. I do need it back, but we'll pass it around. This is a model of 1 pound of fat. Okay, it weighs a little more than 1 pound if you want to go weigh it, but this is what 1 pound of fat would look like. It's kind of gross. Sam lost 3 of these. Like, holy moly, that's pretty cool. So I'll hand it out and you guys can hand it around if you want to. It's kind of cool. It's not actually gross, it just looks gross. So I've had more than one client will say, tell me that weight loss programs with their pet with good supervision is far less daunting than they thought it would be. I've even had some clients, I think CJ is on the call, I think, and she actually told me it was easy. And her cat also recently achieved her ideal weight, so congratulations to them as well. Now that's not always the case. We do have challenging cases where it's very hard to get the weight off the pet. They may have a medical condition or they're on a medication that makes it hard. So it's not always easy, but with a good support from the veterinary team, it can generally be done, or we can at least get them to a healthier weight, which is still much better than nothing at all. So Sam is now living a healthier life. He spends his time watching CTV, as I like to call it, and also playing with Karen. So remember I said that dog owners get more exercise than people who don't have dogs, including cat owners. So I'm not sure that Karen gets a great workout from playing with Sam with his feather toys, but she did tell me a story that she said I could share with you. And she has told me that Sam has actually improved her own health because she is a self-described, I think she used the term night grazer. She likes to have snacks in the evenings when she's watching TV. And now Sam sits on her legs all evening, and Karen doesn't want to disturb him. She doesn't get up and have snacks anymore. So Sam has actually helped Karen with her health.
Kirsten.
Yeah.
I was curious about how you felt about a cup of milk for your.
Don't give your cat a cup of milk.
No, half a cup of milk.
No. Come on.
Why not milk? Milk's the best.
Milk's great if you're married to a dairy farmer. So cats, believe it or not, cats actually can't digest milk. They can as kittens, but as they mature, their GI system can't handle milk, and it quite often will cause diarrhea and that sort of thing. So don't give it to them. I mean, you can let them have a little lick of your bowl, but don't like purposely give it to them every day.
I know.
Don't do that. Do you want me to?
Yeah, just
Keep going? Okay. So you won't see my last couple slides, but the next slide I had was a picture of my lunch from yesterday that I wanted to show you. So just to share my own experience with the big 3 and portion control, I had this great epiphany. I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner to start weighing my own food and looking at the calories. And I discovered, for example, what 30 grams of cheese looks like and how many calories are in it. And so now my lunch every day looks very different than it used to. I'm a lot more careful, and it's made a huge difference for myself and my own health. Here it is. There's my lunch from yesterday. So it's made a big difference for my own health. And I think you could say it made a difference for Tim's health too, because we weigh our food sometimes. So that's my personal story about how weight management in your pet can actually cascade to yourself. And you probably figured out already a lot of the same principles apply to people as they do pets. But I'm not a human expert, so I'm not going to say anything more. Now, I just can't advance the next one.
That you showed with the fat. Is a human fat that's very same? Yeah, very same.
I think that model is actually meant for humans.
Oh, okay.
I saw one once in a pharmacy. Does it work? There you go. So I wanted to leave you with this. This is my wall of fame. These are my weight loss patients and their success stories. It's not all of them, but it's the majority. Sam's in there at the bottom. The cat I mentioned earlier, who recently lost, whose owner is on the call, is the calico there on the top row, Toledo. And they have described her as a completely different cat now that she's lost her weight. So that's what we want, right? Even if they don't get to a perfect weight, we want them to be better. So everyone on this screen has either achieved ideal weight, or has gotten to a healthier weight, or their owners are currently working with them diligently towards a healthier weight. So all of those are success stories. We celebrate every win, big or small. And the reason I share that is because alongside their weight loss, it's also strengthening the human-animal bond, which benefits the family's health as well. And that is why a veterinarian is speaking at a human wellness event. So I just want to say, if you think your pet may have a concern, please talk to your vet team. If you think you need my help, you can contact me directly. The information's there. My business cards are on the table. I also have social media feeds for Facebook and Instagram if you just want to learn more or help spread the word about pet obesity. Please share my stuff if you're interested. And on my website, there's also a lot of blogs. So if you want to know more about food puzzles, there's a blog called The Hunger Games about food puzzles. So yeah, I guess if there's any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. If there's, I don't know if you take questions through Zoom, I'm happy to answer those. And then for those here, there's a number of interactive activities afterwards. So there's the weighing game if you want to try that. There's a couple of things explaining body condition and what it should feel like when you feel your pet's ribs. There's anything on there that has multiple copies you can take home, but there's a couple of big body condition score charts. Don't take those, but everything else, help yourself. So that's it. The end. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask right now? You can always ask me later.
This is kind of not really about nutrition, but the scales that you're using there.
Yeah.
Kirsten, do you find that those are accurate?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. I took out a slide. So it is important to get a half decent scale. The ones I have are just from Canadian Tire, whatever's on sale. I came across one, I wish I had the slide now, on on Amazon, sorry. And it looked like a pet food scoop, like just to scoop the food, but then it had an integrated scale in the handle. But if you look at the fine print, the margin of error is 10 grams. So that's probably okay if you're feeding a big dog that needs 600 grams a day, or well, no, that's an exaggeration, but if you're feeding a cat that only needs 45 grams a day, 10 grams, that's a huge margin.
I've tried two different, about the same size.
Yeah.
They were about $30 each.
Yeah, those are
They don't seem accurate. I'll put the food in the container to measure, and I'm using the chair.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But it'll show, say, 49, and then I'll put another couple of pieces of kibble, and it'll
Yes.
jump up to 53.
Yeah.
Like it's so far.
They can be really fussy like that. I agree. So once in a while, I've tried weighing, okay, I wonder what 5 grams weighs. Well, they're not going to detect the differences needed to weigh 5 grams of dog food or cat food. And that's another reason why I typically will recommend you feed the entire daily portion into the container, because the larger quantity you're weighing, the better accuracy you're going to get.
Yeah, I shoot for 4. I'm trying for 49, but I know. See, I'm working with Cindy or Javero.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
see.
Yeah. So I'm at 47. Yeah. Okay. A little bit more. I put a tiny bit more in. The scale jumps up to 53.
Yeah.
Take a wee bit out.
Yeah.
Like it isn't.
Yeah.
Is there? I would pay for a good scale, but.
It's probably what the price would probably reflect the quality. That should be fine though. So ours sometimes does that, the same ones. So if I'm aiming for 50 grams and I hit 49 and I add one more kibble and it doesn't budge, before I add more kibble, I'll actually push down a little on the scale to wake it back up, and then it registers at 50, and I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And it's, it's still way more accurate than your measuring cup.
Yeah.
So try that. Try just kind of giving a little nudge and going, no, you're supposed to be at 49.
Okay, I'll try that. Okay. But I haven't used that type, and I wondered if you found that they were.
I've been happy with those, just because they are
All right.
Just before we break up and play, and there's food and snacks back there for us that we won't weigh. We'll just enjoy.
Yeah.
But Kirsten, here's the basket for you of
Thank
some
you.
goodies.
Oops,
It's
it's
heavy. Yes, it's
Wow.
some products from members of the congregations from their farms.
Aw,
Yeah,
that's
so
really nice.
I hope you enjoy that.
There's
and
not Tim's cheese in here.
you can put it in when you go home.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you so much. That was really good.
It's my
So,
pleasure.
yeah.
Thanks for being a great company.